Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. I'm Alec Berna. That is Mike Wolfgang. And for some reason, we are green today. Let me just fix that right there. Now we're back to red. Don't know why that happened. Click a button and things aren't the way I want it. Love when everything is
It's
completely
technology.
different. Here we go. Now everything should be back to normal as we got our little bug up there in the corner. But, Mike, what happened to our great weather, man? We were having like 90, 80-degree days. Now it's like 60 and supposed to get back down to the 50s tonight. We had massive storms coming in last night. What
Yeah,
happened?
it came down pretty hard last night. I don't think it's supposed to rain tonight, but it's pretty chilly. I hope it holds up because I got the Scrappers tonight, their opening day. So
Yeah, that's you can catch
hopefully
that
get that
game
in.
here tonight on YSNlive.com when it goes live. It's 7 o'clock tonight.
Yep.
All right, should be an exciting one for sure. We got games going on as well at Bob's Scene. 16U and 14U go into action tonight. I'm on a couple games here in the later evening, but just got to point this out here. I believe this is now week 38 of the Casual Sports Podcast. It's 37 or 38. I don't remember exactly which one it is. And just want to point out, it does not feel like we've been doing this for 37 weeks.
On YSN, that's hard to believe.
Yeah, on YS. We've been doing a little longer outside of it, but going daily to an hour-long show, we've been doing that for like 37 weeks now. That's a lot of hours. I know we've taken a couple days off here and there, but man, that's a lot of hours we've worked on this show.
It's hard to believe we've had a show for like 2 years now, over
Yeah,
2 years.
wow, it's been a long time, but let's get back to what we've been doing here for so long. Let's talk NHL to start things off. Not a ton going on, but it's still been pretty exciting. I mean, yesterday, I think the Rangers kind of shocked us all again. They
Yeah,
found a way to beat the Lightning, and they dominated. They won it 6-2, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised how well this Rangers team is holding up. And it seems that every corner, every time I go to doubt them, they continue to prove me wrong. I really want Tampa to pull through this series. I'm going to continue pushing for them in that side of it. But I got to give some credit right now to the Rangers. They have changed the story every time around. The only series I picked them in was against Pittsburgh. So I'm well surprised on what they've done so far.
I'm pretty surprised too because I know I've said this about a couple of series, and you say this a lot in the playoffs, but this is a really, really good goaltending matchup with Vasilevsky and Shesterkin. One of the best you could probably say in this playoffs that you're going to see, that we have seen, that we're going to see. So I was kind of surprised. I gave the edge in that goalie department to Tampa Bay Lightning with Vasilevsky because I think he is the best goalie in the league. But last night, man, the Rangers put a lot of shots on him. They put a lot in the back of the net. I mean, I didn't expect total of 8 goals in this game. I didn't expect that in game one because I thought the Lightning would come out a little shaky, which they kind of did, which they did in this game. I thought the Rangers would come out a little bit sluggish because they've been beating themselves up playing 14 games and playing as physical as they do. But yeah, it kind of went the path of the other game on the other side of the bracket in game one with the Avalanche and Oilers. A lot of high scoring. I'm not expecting this to continue in this series, but if it stays this way, the Rangers, man, they're looking good.
Yeah, can we talk about the fact that each of our, conference finals matchups that we've seen have given us just a boatload of goals? I mean, first game gives us 14. This one gives us 8. We've had somebody score 6 or more in each of the first 2 games that we've seen so far.
Yeah, and last night, especially when the Rangers got on the board first, that place was electric. It's been the whole Madison Square Garden, the whole playoffs so far, but it really felt that their conference finals again. They haven't really made deep runs like we talked about yesterday with the teams that have a lot of playoff series over the last couple of years. They're one of them, but they haven't gotten to this point a lot. So it really felt like old school back in the '90s when they were dominating back in the '90s, and it was fun to see. But I'm not giving up on the Lightning yet. I think it's you often say in the basketball it's a feel out game. I think it is for them too. They're defending champs. They know what they're doing. But like I said, you got to watch out for this Rangers team because I didn't expect them to get to this point. I didn't expect them to beat Carolina. I didn't pick them against my team. They're still going.
Yeah, they're still going strong too. That's the scariest thing about them. At this point, I don't know how you stop this Rangers team. I mean, seemingly they should be exhausted, out of breath. They shouldn't be able to put up 6 goals in a game against one of the best goalies in all of the NHL, and yet here they are going up and dominating the defending 2-time Stanley Cup champs in the Tampa Bay Lightning. And The only thing is with this series, you can never count either one of these two teams out. When Tampa and New York, this thing should go 7. Yeah, I feel like it's going to line up to do that. Home teams are most likely going to continue to win here. But also got to point out, I believe with that win, it's 7 straight wins at home now for the Rangers.
Yeah.
And that's an incredible mark to have in the playoffs. That is domination. And it really sets up a game 2 tomorrow at 8 that opens the door for Tampa to steal a lot of lightning or a lot of the momentum, not the lightning, that's what they are. They can steal a lot of the momentum if they can finally break that winning streak here in the playoffs and then take that momentum back into Tampa when they get to go home. But the Rangers, they can continue this on. I mean, since they have home ice advantage in this series, being the higher seed, they got a great chance to not even have to win on the road and just continue that on, make it 11 or what at this point, 3 more, so 10 straight at home. That'd be an impressive mark to take into the NHL Finals.
And I think a big thing you're seeing with the Rangers is that, like I said, Shesterkin, one of the better goalies in the league. You keep hearing about their goaltending, but they're getting guys like Zibanejad. He's been hot since the end of the Pittsburgh series. He's been their main guy on offense right now, and you got other guys that follow like Chris Kreider, the veteran. So they're getting production everywhere, not just their goaltending. They're a team that isn't just relying on their goaltending. And I think Tampa's not doing that. But last night, like I said, I think they came out a little sluggish. We'll see what happens in game 2, but Rangers are, they're getting production everywhere.
That they are, and it should be an exciting finish. We'll talk about it more on tomorrow's show. But how about we get into what's going on tonight, Mike? The Edmonton Oilers and the Colorado Avalanche. In game 2, we saw 14 goals combined between these two on Tuesday. My hope is that they're a little bit more exhausted. This thing is a little bit tighter here tonight with the more limited goals. What are your thoughts coming into game 2 and what's been a high-scoring series so far?
Well, I'm normally not a guy, even in baseball, to score similar in baseball. I'm normally not a guy that likes a ton amount of runs or goals, but that was pretty entertaining in that first game. I didn't. The first
an opening period with 5 goals, and the second one they give you 6 as well. Yeah. That's just outrageous.
I had a feeling that this series was going to be. I don't know if it's going to continue, but at least in game 1, I had a feeling it was going to be that way. A lot of the guys on the TNT crew were saying this, like, hey, this is going to be a fast-paced series with 2 teams that play fast. We talk about it a lot on the show, and teams that put the Oilers didn't really put a lot of goals up in that first round series, but they've really taken off, especially in that Flame series, like you talked about. And they're doing it against this Colorado team. And I think with this Avalanche team, they score a lot. They get out and transition a lot. And I think the Oilers have to do that, continue to stay in it. But they do what they did in game 1. They give themselves a chance because they put up enough goals to win that game. They just didn't stop the other team that much.
They did it. And that's the one thing for me going here into game 2. We saw Edmonton's best offense. I think you can't say they've played better offensively this entire postseason than they did in this game, and it still wasn't enough. I'm concerned with Edmonton's defense at this point.
Yes.
Going up against this Colorado team that exploited every single weakness that they could in game 1. I know Edmonton did the same to Colorado, but it still wasn't enough to beat the Avalanche. And right now, Colorado, they really are living up to that name of being the Avalanche because everything about them, they are just pouring it on top of you. And it's suffocating for an opponent to go out there and put up 6 goals. I mean, how many times can you say you put up 6 goals and you still lost? That's got to be disheartening going into game 2. Maybe it lights a flame for them, but maybe everything's been suffocated by that Avalanche. I got Colorado taking it tonight. I think I originally took Edmonton in this series. Depending on how tonight's game goes, I think I might want to flip that around. I like what I saw out of Colorado in game 1. I don't want to overreact just yet because you got to wait until this thing hits back to Edmonton to see if Colorado can continue to dominate here in the series because we've seen it a lot already in these playoffs. Home teams have been dominant. Home teams have won the majority of games. I mean, we saw it down with Carolina, the Hurricanes. They didn't win a game on the road in the playoffs, and they still made it into the second round in 7-game series against New York. So I don't want to overreact just yet and push panic button. Colorado's taking this. Put your bets in. I don't want to say that just yet, but I think it's leaning that direction, especially after what we've seen out of Colorado already in the playoffs. When they see blood in the water, they attack and they are ready to put you away in an instant. Edmonton needs a response tonight.
And I think they opened up that first game pretty good. They started the game out 1-0, but
Yeah.
the big thing is they have a goal, and less than a minute later, Colorado scores a goal to match them. So they can't try to match goals with Colorado. You got to get yourselves on the board and play good defense, because you can't. You got to play better than 8 goals. We all know that. You can't give up 8 goals and try to beat this team. It's not going to happen. And it's pretty much what happened in the game. Like you said, they played good on offense. 6 goals, you take that in hockey any day. But they just couldn't stop the Avalanche. And I think you're right. I think it's gonna maybe not continue this pace tonight in game 2, but I think Colorado's gonna get another one home. They're tough to play there.
Yeah. Well, here's my big question, I think, going into it. So, game 1 for the Oilers, they had Mike Smith start the game between the pipes. He gave up 6 goals. They made the change out to Mikko Koskinen. Who do you think takes the goalie spot here tonight? Do you think they go right back to Mike Smith, say, hey, you had a bad night, we're going to keep faith in you? Or do you think they change it up to the guy that stopped 20 out of 21 goals?
I think you got to go back to your starter in Smith. You've seen this a couple times in these playoffs with the Rangers. We talked about Shesterkin got pulled, a couple other guys get pulled. I mean, you give up 6 goals, it's time to yank them and try something else. But it could have just been an off night. We'll see tonight. I would go back to your starter and go from there. And if he continues to give up a lot of goals like he did in game 1, I would make the switch up. But I would stay with your starter.
I'm guessing you're going to give that same answer for that on the Colorado side. Pavel Francouz was the starter, saved 18 out of the 21 goals. He allowed 3. They brought in Darcy Kemper. He saved 13 of 16, so they each allowed 3 goals. That one, it looks a little bit better to go right back to the starter, but do you keep that same mindset, Mike? Maybe just an off night, keep our guy in there, see if he can lock it down again?
Yeah, I do, especially for Colorado, too. And look, this is a bad game for goalies in that game 1. It's 8 goals,
Yeah,
6 goals, so both were going to get pulled anyways. It was just a bad game.
That's a lot to ask of any goalie to stop. When you're,
Yeah.
I mean, combined between the two, over 100, between all 4 goalies, they all saw 100 goals, shot attempts, I should say. That's a lot to ask of any goalie. So I'm hoping that they come back with a vengeance in game 2 and make this the goalies' night. Because we saw the sticks get hot. Now it's time to see those goalies lock down the pipes.
Obviously, with 8 goals and 6 goals, you're going to see a lot of shots on goal. So maybe that might get a little bit of limit tonight. Like I said, that was just a bad night for goalies. I don't expect to score like this again tonight, but you never know with these 2 teams, the way they play.
You never know. I mean, look at the last 3 games of the NHL postseason so far. 8 goals, 14 goals, and 8 goals. I mean, it has been a scoring barrage so far here in the last little bit of this postseason. So who's to say this won't continue?
Like I said, I normally in hockey and basketball, or hockey and baseball, I normally don't like high scores, but this has been pretty fun these last couple rounds in hockey. It's been fun to see a lot of goals go up and see,
because
like,
it's not like you're just seeing a blowout. You're seeing the best players in the league right now play their very best hockey. I think that's the difference. Regular season high-scoring games versus postseason high-scoring games, there's a big difference. During the regular season, you see these high-scoring games, and it's a blowout. It's not fun. It's demoralizing to even watch. Even as the team that's winning, sometimes you're like, all right, I'm going to turn to something else. I don't feel like watching it. Here in the postseason, you're like, yes, we're going up against one of the best teams, and we're still getting our stuff in. And that's just something you don't see during the regular season, that same fire. And if you let off for a second here in the postseason, that team across from you is still looking to strike. They're not, conceding the game because they're down by 4 goals. They're going to continue fighting until that final buzzer. There's a whole different intensity, and you kind of have to keep your foot down all the way. There is no letting off. There is no putting in your second unit or whatever, letting some guys that don't normally get time start playing. No, you got to keep your best guys on the floor as long as possible, or else that other team's going to start making a comeback. And that was the battle we saw between Colorado and Edmonton in the first game. And I'm hoping for something similar tonight, where these teams are having a fight for the whole thing.
Yeah, because that's the strength of both these teams, is just going at it like they did in game 1. But I think it's entertaining that, you see all these really good dominant goaltenders that have come into these playoffs, like Shesterkin, and we even saw in Pittsburgh that they had 2 guys hurt, but when Jari came back, he started game 7. So, I mean, you're seeing a lot of goalies both in this series. So you're seeing a lot of goalies that were considered some of the best to this point look a little bit vulnerable. So it's kind of cool to see that part of it too.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's not too often you see the best best somebody in a game really get just absolutely destroyed. It does not happen in most sports. I mean, guys can have an off night, but to get dominated like with 6 goals, like you saw on the Edmonton side for their goalie, you don't see that often. And I think this is the more interesting side of it is how does that guy respond? How does he rebuild that mental edge that he came into this postseason with and rebuild that wall between the pipes?
Yeah, and you even saw last night with somebody like I said, Vasilevsky, the best goalie in the league for Tampa Bay, and he get 6 goals.
Yeah.
So
and will he be able to rebuild that mental edge too?
Yeah, that's another entertaining part of these playoffs so far. You've seen a lot of deep series, a lot of good teams going at it, but you're seeing a lot of goaltenders look a little bit shaky.
And I think right now, personally, I mean, this is probably one of the more exciting Stanley Cup playoffs I think we've seen in a while. I mean, there have been twists, turns, 7-game comebacks, a lot of 7-game series. Everything's worked out, and I think right now, as much as I really like Tampa and Colorado to win it, it's hard to say that the Rangers aren't the best team in hockey right now. Based on the way they're playing, they have a mental edge and a mental toughness that I don't think anybody else out there on the ice has. The fact that they've gone 14 games, now 15 games in here to the postseason, and we've doubted them every step, and they're still here proving us wrong. They got a chip on their shoulder. They know it. I hope they embrace it. New York, these last 16 years, they've won a lot of games, but they have never won that cup. If there's going to be a year to do it, it feels like right now with this momentum that they've started to ball up, they don't feel like they can lose a series. And I think that makes them dangerous because they know they can lose a game, but they're not going to lose that series.
And I think that's their mindset. And I think right now, based off what you're saying, yeah, they are. Based off the way they're playing since the playoffs started, they are the best team probably. And I think that's the mindset that you have when we talk about when you're, especially you, when you're putting together power rankings, you always go based off. That's what power rankings are. Who's playing the best right now?
Yeah,
and they are right now.
What's going on today? And right now, New York would sit number 1 on that list. I'd probably have Colorado at 2, Tampa at 3, and actually, I might have Tampa at 4 and Edmonton at 3.
Yeah, but any matchup you're going to get at this point, the best four of the best teams that are left, you're going to have a good matchup anyways.
Exactly.
You got to say, I've been rooting for Colorado and Tampa Bay pretty much all year. I'm sticking up for both of them, and at this point, they're 2 of the 4 standing. It's hard to say you couldn't like an Avalanche and Rangers Stanley Cup final.
I think any combination at this point should be fun. I mean, I think the one thing, Edmonton versus New York might be the most physical matchup I think we could imagine going into the Stanley Cup. But, I mean, if you put Tampa and Colorado out there, that's going to be electric as well. So I think you either got the brawler side or you got speed threats on the other. Either way it turns out, should be fun to see, hopefully. But let's go ahead and transition out of here. Let's head over into the NBA Finals. Mike, we're finally here. Game 1 tonight of the series to watch. It's been a long time coming since these two have met. 2 of the original 3 franchises in the NBA, and they haven't met since Wilt Chamberlain was playing, 50 years ago? Yeah. So 50, 60 years ago. It's been a long time coming for this series to be set up. Boston on the verge, potentially, if they can take Golden State down here, of reclaiming their title for most NBA titles for a franchise. Golden State trying to continue a dynasty. There's all sorts of storylines coming into this one. We've talked a lot about this already. We've given light predictions, what we think might happen. What are you feeling right now coming into it? Forget everything we've talked about, everything we've said. Forget all the games before. What is your gut saying right now about this matchup?
I think it's going to be an entertaining one. Really, I do. And I think you guys all know I've been on the Warriors bandwagon. I think I'm going to stick with it. I won't get my pick yet, but I think it's hard to think that the Celtics, like a lot of people are just saying, it's Golden State. Celtics can challenge them. They have a really good. You're seeing one of the best offenses in Golden State go up against the best defense league in Boston. I think that's the really big storyline in this matchup so far, or that you're going to have coming in. We'll see what happens tonight when it unfolds, but that's the most entertaining thing about it, I think. Two parts of a game, defense and offense, going at it together that are the best in the league.
Yeah,
that's what you want.
And that's no discredit to Boston's offense, which, by the way, when they're on, they match Golden State.
Yeah, they can. But I said this the last time we were talking about this the other day. That's just the Celtics. They got to go in there and play their game and not try to match Golden State's offense, because you see too many teams in the playoffs try to do that, and they get waxed against Golden State when they try to do that. So just play your game, stick to what you got. See what your best defense can do against Golden State's offense, because if you can limit them, force them to turn it over, because they do make a lot of stupid turnovers sometimes, Golden State. Do that and see where it gets you. If you can keep this close against Golden State, I know it's hard on the road at that place, but if you can keep things close, give yourselves a chance. It could be interesting.
It is, and I'll flip that question back on myself. And I'm going to go a little bit off the numbers here, which I know not something that's common for me, but I got to take this a little off the court. And the one thing that I always think about coming into the playoffs, especially once you get down, especially NBA Finals, there's so much, I think more than other sports, media coverage, especially on Instagram, Twitter. Everybody talks about the NBA Finals. And I know the NFL gets so much more viewership and they have maybe a better playoffs. But when the NBA comes down to their final 7 of the season, there's something about the media and the way it gets pushed that I feel creates an edge that does translate over to the floor. And right now there's been a lot of jabs back and forth, even playful ones. And then there's the hype. There's the hype that comes with this and the hype of teams getting pushed. And the one thing for me, and Mike, I know you've pointed out this before about certain teams coming into certain games and you thought they were overhyped. You didn't like what was happening. There was too much off the floor. That's what I feel about Boston right now. This last couple of games, they've gotten all the coverage in the world. Every stat they have has been thrown out the wall. Their entire picture has been painted. And then Golden State's over here, well, they've been quiet the last week. We've seen a couple comments out there, into the Twitterverse, a couple of things here and there, but nothing major. And then you got Boston over here running around. They're shouting. They're excited. They're winning the Eastern Conference Finals. They finally get to the NBA. Every stat about last time they were here, and they just beat the 3 teams that had eliminated in the last 3 years. Oh, every team that has eliminated Jimmy Butler the last 3 years has gone on to win the title. There's all of this back and forth about Boston this, Boston that. And it feels like one of those things, they're digging in too deep right now. All the hype is on Boston. And, to the credit you've been pushing, everyone's leaving out Golden State right now. And they don't care. They don't care. They don't care what the media says. They're going in, they're showing up, they're playing their brand basketball, and it's up to Boston to show up and do that. And right now, the hype for me has me worried about what Boston's going to do in this series. And I know that's a part that you don't think translates onto the floor, but I feel like so many times we go, don't, throw all that out the window. It doesn't matter, but it does. I feel like every time we get down to the, especially NBA playoffs, the way these things get pushed and built, and, super team Golden State and underdog Boston, it's getting pushed a certain way, and it worries me that Boston's going to fall into this trap, especially in the first 2 games.
I agree, and that's something I was saying to you and Matt after the Celtics won the other night. It's that you normally don't see the Celtics 17 championships. They go for championships, but it seemed like when they got the Eastern Conference championship trophy, they were all excited. Like Al Horford finally got there. Jason Tatum was happy to get there. It just seemed like a lot of these guys are just happy to get there. I don't know how it's going to be once it starts tonight, but the big thing was Klay Thompson. When they won their Western Conference title last week, they had all 6 of their Western Conference championship trophies out on the court after the game that they won over the years. Didn't face him. He's like, I want to keep playing and win the other. I want to win the big one. And you normally see that mindset from Boston, but I don't think I've seen that so far from the moment they won the other night in Game 7 until now. All the press conference stuff. You've seen Jason Tatum kind of get a little shell shocked from seeing the stuff all over the place as the finals. That's his first time seeing it. I understand that, but you can't. You got to put that out.
We're both kind of on this that Boston's going to get trapped in a hangover effect.
I hope I'm wrong because I want to see a deep series here.
Right.
But that's just kind of the way it feels so far.
I feel like this thing goes long. It's because Golden State wins the first 2 at home, Boston wins the next 2 at home, and then we go into the final 3 games, and it's up to Boston to win 1 on the road. I feel like home court advantage is going to be a big key in this matchup, and that's something I'm going to continue to watch out for. But especially with all the Jason Tatum stuff and Kobe Bryant in that in Game 7, he was doing it for him. I sent him a text before the game, all this and that. I hope he doesn't get in his own head about it because Tatum right now has to go out there and he's got to be Michael. He's got to be Kobe. He's got to be LeBron. And most importantly, he's got to be Jason frickin' Tatum. because Jason frickin' Tatum got them to the NBA Finals, not him playing for Kobe or playing for LeBron or playing for Michael or all the Boston greats before him. He played for the team now and for himself. And I think that was the difference. And I hope, with the highest of hopes, that he comes into this playoffs, into this final series with that same mindset. Because Jason Tatum, at his best, is one of the best players in the NBA. But he's not always. And that's the one thing separating Tatum from being great. He is a really, really good basketball player. And he is at that peak of what you can say about a good basketball player. But if he wants to be great, if he wants to be a superstar, if he wants those supermax contracts and actually deserve it and be able to be that franchise guy for Boston, if you want to be a franchise guy for Boston, you got to be a BA, and you have to win. You have to win this. Yeah. All the pressure in the world's on Jason Tatum, and I think Golden State knows that. They don't have the pressure on them. They're Golden State. They've been here. This is what they do. And part of me, much as I criticize billing Boston as the underdog, to your point about, Boston was celebrating, throwing streamers everywhere, all this and that, and Golden State, they were chilled, they were laid back. Well, go back 50, 60 years, they're going to some ice hockey in the Olympics. There was a Russian team that had all the glory, all the wins. They hadn't lost in years. They were the team to beat, and no one could beat them. Then there was a bunch of nobodies, college boys coming out here on the ice for Team USA, and they pulled off a miracle. And then they did it again and beat Canada in the gold medal match. No one remembers that. Everyone remembers US and Russia. There was still a game after that. But to me, it has that same billing. And I feel like Boston knows the situation. As much as I'm talking about the hype, they know the situation coming in. Both these teams are going to be ready to go. And it should just be awesome. I mean, you have two coaches that both played and coached with Greg Popovich down at San Antonio. Now, Udoka has a chance to win a title in his first season. Steve Kerr did that. They both are playing with great teams. You have the amazing duo of Klay Thompson and Steph Curry. You have the rising duo of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, which, by the way, I think is one of the most underrated duos in the NBA today. And I think they've demonstrated that this season, that they are one of the best duos inside of the NBA. And I don't think there's really any argument against it, because I don't know any other team, especially with, a small forward and a shooting guard, that could have gone on the tear that they did. I don't think there's one in the NBA today that could have done what they did over the last couple of months. And now you come into the NBA Finals. Boston's got the edge. Boston has the edge, but Golden State's been here. They know what they're doing. I only say Boston has the edge because they've been playing kind of like the New York Rangers I was talking about a second ago. They've gone deep in series. They've had to fight tooth and nail to get every inch so far. They've taken down greats. They've played every style of basketball imaginable. They've had good nights and they've had bad. Golden State on the other side, they've been in some tough series, but they've played good in every game. I think that's the one difference. Golden State feels like Colorado Avalanche in the NHL. They've played great so far. Very few question marks. They're coming in here. They expect to be here. They're doing great. Then you got this scrappy Boston team, much like Rangers, that have fought their way here. And for some reason, they made it as far as they did. And I think it's setting up a great billing.
And I think the difference is to what I was talking about with Boston. They seemed like a lot of the guys were happy that they won the Eastern Conference and that they're going to the finals.
Yeah.
I think you could say that about Golden State, but it was different with them because they were all celebrating being back after missing 2 years. But you saw them that
more celebrating finally winning it together again.
And being back. And Klay Thompson being happy that he has that chance after he was gone for 2-3 years or whatever it was. So,
I mean, you go back 10 years ago, Klay Thompson never plays basketball again with those injuries.
Yeah, back-to-back like that. Yeah.
Steph Curry too, with the torn ACL. I mean, people forget that he was out for a while too.
And this kind of goes away from what I'm saying. It's related some way, but as much as we've gotten tired of Golden State, especially when our team was playing them and what they've done before the injuries, it is kind of good to see them back. It's kind of like, at least
it's nice. Yeah,
it is nice. It feels normal. It feels like that the media's back there covering Golden State in the finals. It's just, it feels right. And it's not going to continue forever. I know some other team's going to take their place when their run is over, but it's it's good. It feels normal again. It does, and I think it's fun seeing somebody like Boston go up against them, somebody different. And
Well,
I was thinking.
Go ahead.
I was thinking when you said about Udoka being, he could win a title in this championship and be, a first year coach to win a title. It's every time that a team has beaten Golden State, it's been a first time head coach winning a championship. Tyronn Lue, Nick Nurse. It could be Udoka this year. So that's something I just thought of. It's kind of coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was something I had mentioned earlier, but to your point about having Golden State back and it feels right, this is the part of sports that I think people love to hate. You love to hate dynasties, but for sports to be successful, you need a dynasty. You need that king on top of the hill. You need somebody that sets the bar. And for everybody, for years, to be trying to break that down. We know the gold standards out west in the Bay, and right now, Boston, they're trying to break that standard again. And for me, Boston, we have two different. I think both these teams are playing for two different goals while both playing for the NBA title. Golden State, they're trying to rebuild or get right back into the flow of their dynasty, continue that, pop back up a few new players, new flashy additions, a new flashy arena, but with that same mindset in there of we're going in to win these titles. This is our right. We are the champions these last couple of years. Get rid of them for us. That was just us reloading and getting back here, getting our guys healthy. They are coming in with the mindset of the defending champions because no one beat them to win those titles. They weren't in the playoffs. Nobody dethroned Golden State in this time.
They dethroned themselves.
That's one difference for me comparing Golden State's dynasty as we did the other day to Chicago. Someone dethroned Chicago. Even though Jordan left, but Chicago was still there. Pippen was still winning 50 games. And they got dethroned because Michael wasn't there. Nobody ever got the chance to dethrone Golden State. Kawhi beat them in the finals, but there was injuries. And there's some people will put an asterisk next to it. I'm not one that likes that. You play with what you got. I don't put an asterisk next to that title, but I think some people do. They got beat. Sure. Every great dynasty gets beat at some point. Patriots got beat a couple times in the Super Bowl. They were still a great dynasty. This is Golden State's dynasty. Sure, they lost a game, but to me, I don't think they've ever been dethroned.
No, they're just going to pick up where they left off, and I think we've been saying that this whole run so far.
To beat.
Is that like you said, nobody they in a way they you don't want injuries, but in a way they dethrone themselves because Kevin Durant left. We all thought they were still going to be good without him because they were before he got there. Then Clay gets hurt, and then Steph Curry breaks his hand. I think he something where he was out for a while. So yeah, and nobody really they took themselves out not because they wanted to, but because they were every best player they had was gone. They were playing with a bunch of young guys who they have now that now know how to play, but they didn't at that point.
Once Curry came back, I mean, Draymond wasn't playing either.
Yeah.
And then you had Steph Curry working with first-year center James Wiseman, who was starting great, then gets injured again. And at every turn, every time Golden State was looking good again, somebody got injured. And finally, they're back, they're healthy, they're strong, they're ready to go. And for me, as much as I talk about Boston, this is Golden State's series to lose.
Yeah.
Boston's trying to win it. If they lose, oh well. They have 18. They have 17 other titles. They're going for 18. They have 17 others. Who cares if they lose? They won the Eastern Conference Finals. Finally, they got back to the NBA Finals. To me, Boston's going to get that hangover because they did everything they set out to do. And now they're going for the cherry on top. And whether they get that or not, it kind of feels like a moot point. But Golden State, they haven't hit a single one of their goals. Their goal, they have one. And that's the NBA Finals. And I think that's the difference coming in.
Well, I want to go back to what you said earlier about dynasties in a way. We always talk about, those 4 years the Cavs and Warriors are playing each other. A lot of people said it was bad for basketball. But in a way, it's, you want to play the whole regular season in the playoffs to try to beat those two teams. And I think that's the problem that, you see that in football. Like you said, the Patriots, we saw them how many times over the last 20 years.
People got sick of them. But at the end of the day, they were the team to beat. If you couldn't beat the Patriots, then you weren't going to win. You had to scheme to beat that team. And your entire building process was just to beat that team. We saw that in the Western and Eastern Conferences the last couple of years before all the injuries of the last couple, where the Western Conference, every team was loading up to beat Golden State.
Yeah, and I think that's what a sport like baseball is missing, because they haven't had a repeat champion in over 20 years. You see it in hockey. You see Tampa Bay won back-to-back. Pittsburgh won back-to-back within the last decade. You see teams that you want to try to beat them. You want to aim to beat them and have that target on your back that we're coming for you. And you don't see that in baseball too much. You see it in the regular season with Dodgers and Yankees, but they haven't won the World Series in over 10 years. I mean, the Dodgers did, but that's the first time in 30 years they did. So I think it's good that you're gearing up to beat these teams. And I think that's like people are tuning in to see who's going to beat them, who's the next team that's going to beat them. And I think that's a good part about it. And I think it's with Golden State, like you said, because nobody really has beaten them.
Right. And to your point about baseball, I mean, think of when baseball was in its greatest day. The Yankees were winning a title every year. Yeah. They had the greatest player in baseball, and he did what the greatest player should, win titles. And that's why, to this day, many people still consider Babe Ruth to be the greatest of all time. Because he won. He won title after title after title with great teams. I mean, no discount to the rest.
Well, you have to have a great team, yeah.
Yeah, but to your point, NBA, there's always been that top guy. There's been some, changing of the guards here and there of, takes a couple of years to reset, figure out who it's going to be. Miami had a great stint, getting a couple of titles. It probably should have been more. Well, definitely should have been more. But you had the period after the Lakers, or after the Bulls. Lakers took over pretty quick thereafter. Then there was kind of a rough process after the Lakers until Miami took it. Boston had a little bit of shine in there. Wasn't a lot, but then Miami took it. Then Golden State took it. And right now, even though we've had a couple other champions, it's still Golden State's time. They're going on one of the longest dynasty runs of the last 30 years.
Yeah. And it's good to see, because you've seen them go back-to-back. You've seen them win 3 and 4 years. I mean, Miami went back-to-back, but they didn't win 3 and 4 years. Like you said, they should have won more, but they didn't. San Antonio won, 3 and 5 years? They never went to back-to-back. So you don't see this happen a whole lot in basketball. And I think it's, as much as we didn't like them when they were playing our team, like I said, it just feels better and right to have them back.
I don't have to like you to respect you, and I respect
exactly.
the hell out of
that's the thing.
I don't like them.
And I've told you guys this many times since I've known you guys. My dad is a Cavs fanatic, has been forever. Could not stand Michael Jordan on the basketball court. But when he wasn't playing the Cavs, he was like, I got to watch this guy. I respect him. He's beating my team. It's not like we're losing to some scrub. We're losing to the greatest player ever. It's not like we're losing to some bum. So that part of it, yeah, it's fun. Anybody can argue what they say about Steph Curry, that he's changed the game for good or bad. It's still fun to watch it.
And Steph Curry's that guy to watch.
Yeah.
I'm not turning on a game. I'm not turning on these finals to see Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown or Klay Thompson or Andrew Wiggins or any other guy on the floor. I'm turning on to see what Steph Curry can do.
Yeah.
And I think this is the next great challenge for this Warriors dynasty. They've done the back-to-backs. They've done a long series against Cleveland. They have their back and forth, the rivalry. They've got that part of the dynasty checked. They took some losses, check. But now, can you come back? Can you return to glory after a couple of years where you've kind of had to bite the bullet, where you had injuries stopping you from achieving your goals? Can you get back now to what you did before? It was the same question Jordan faced when he came back from baseball. Can you still be that guy we saw win 3 in a row? Can Golden State still be that team we saw win 3 in 4 years? And this is the answering machine right now. What can they do? I'm excited to see it. I want to know if they can. I really hope they do, because to me, as much as I don't like them, basketball the last 7 years has ignited a whole new flame within me as an NBA fan. And seeing what this team has done the last 7 years, it made me excited to watch basketball again.
Yeah.
I loved basketball growing up. When LeBron was in Cleveland, he left. I stopped watching basketball. I stopped watching it for years. I didn't see our Kyrie Irving years. I saw a couple of games, but I didn't watch it. I fell out of love with basketball. And then LeBron returns to Cleveland, and instantly we get a series against this Golden State team that shoots the ball at a level we've never seen before. And there is something about that. The way that they control the sport, control the narrative, everything NBA is golden, and that's because of the Warriors.
Yeah.
That fire they brought back to the league, is the same fire that allowed the league to spark going into the 90s, coming out of the 80s era with Boston and their dominating group and in Showtime Lakers. They had these teams that ignited a spark within the nation, and then a young guy came up and took power and made the NBA something new that launched it into this last 20 years that has been the highest peak of NBA play ever seen. And Golden State, they're doing it again. We've seen this same brand of basketball for really 25 years. From the 90s to 2015, we saw this style of basketball where it was basics. You had flashy dunking. Everything was from the mid-range in. We had some good three-point shooters, and Ray Allen was there balling out, Kyle Korver, a lot of other guys, great three-point shooters. But the focus of basketball was bigs, playing inside, playing physical. We don't want free throws. We want to put it on somebody's head. That was 25 years of basketball. Golden State changed everything. In the last 10 years, last 7 years, just completely turned the sport over. And they're setting it up. This is probably still another 8 years down the line before we see somebody new come in and really take hold of the NBA like Jordan and Kobe did. But they're setting the table right now with this dynasty and this excitement they're creating year after year of launching the NBA again into that next big push.
And I think it's cool because, to your point when you talked about when LeBron left the first time, you didn't watch that much. The last couple of years, I haven't really been. I still watch, but not as much as I used to. I used to watch all the time, every time basketball. But it's nothing against the game. It's just, the Cavs have stunk a lot in my life.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt.
They've stunk a lot in my life, but even when they win 10 games a year, they win 50 games a year. I watch every game of the Cavs. Yeah. I try if I can, if I'm able to. I don't miss games. So, but with the Golden State part of it, it's cool because how many times we hear about from other people, from our parents or whatever, that they saw the Celtics and the Lakers in the 80s. They saw Jordan's dynasty. They saw all this other stuff. We saw the Miami Heat win back-to-back titles when LeBron was there, but they weren't a dynasty. They just won back-to-back.
Even when, the Lakers and Celtics were doing their thing in the early 2000s and the Spurs, we were barely even old enough to remember a lot of those. So,
I mean, the Spurs...
This has been a whole new era for us.
The Spurs were, like I said, they won, 3 in that 5-year span? They won 4 in 9 years. So they were a dynasty, but not back. They didn't go back-to-back. So, but this is like this Golden State. Not only are they a dynasty,
also at that age where we're not going to be calling back every single play and I remember the exact details, like our parents will talk about with the Lakers and Celtics in that era.
Yeah. But it's with Golden State. It's that you're seeing a team that, not only they're on this dynasty. We'll see if it continues after this year, but they have been a team that has changed basketball. And a lot of those dynasties, you could say like Jordan in the '90s, they were physical, but they didn't really change the game. Steph Curry changed the game.
Spurs dynasty. That one was more the final send off for that era of basketball was San Antonio getting those titles.
Yeah, and I think
it cemented Greg Popovich. It cemented everything of the 80s and 90s in tough defensive basketball, and that allowed the Flash to come around into the 2010s with the big change up with Miami, pulling everybody together and making this flashy, loud super team down in Miami.
And again, I think you said this week or sometime last week that we are starting to see that kind of go away. Super teams. We're seeing guys team up. We're not seeing big threes that much anymore. We're not seeing big fours anymore. We're seeing
I feel
duos.
like they're getting big twos with a great four.
Yeah, and I like that. Whether there's players are still going to move around, that's still going to happen a lot. Players aren't going to stay in the same place often, but
it does feel like it's calming down a little bit more.
It does. It really does. And you see with Boston that they drafted both of their duo with their 2 stars, and Golden State drafted all their guys. So it's
the 2 stars on each of these 2 teams were drafted.
Yeah, it's fun to, as much as we've, like I said, gone against Golden State. You got to appreciate it. It's still cool to see it, and you're seeing a dynasty, like I said, that isn't just a dynasty. They're a dynasty that actually changed basketball. We're gonna go tell the people 20 years from now when you guys are all done, maybe in 10, 15 years when they're all done. But I watched them in the finals literally beat people from shooting 40-foot shots.
Yeah.
30-foot shots. I mean, you'd never heard of that before. You used to see guys get pulled for even trying to
Well,
do
Mike,
that.
here's the thing that's really going to happen. We're going to be, back in my day, they only shot it from a little behind the 3-point line. Now they're shooting it from the 4-point line. This ain't basketball anymore. That's what it's really going to
Well,
be.
look, and a big reason, like I just said, a big reason why I have not watched basketball as much as I have been, because too many people are trying to do what Golden State does. You're not going to do that. And I think that's the part of it. It's that it's not entertaining. I've seen games the Cavs have played against numerous teams where for like 5 minutes straight, every shot taken was a three-pointer. That's not the entertaining part of it, but when you see Golden State do it, that is entertaining.
Yeah. And I think the moment somebody matches Golden State is the moment it catches fire.
Yeah.
Because we've never seen anybody be able to do what Golden State does. If Boston can bring this back in, if Boston can come back into this series and they can get that three-point shooting back that they had, not in this last series, but the prior two. If they can get that three-point shooting back around, up back there in the 35, 40% range that they were hitting on to start the playoffs, especially like they did against the Nets, then we're going to see that. We're going to see this spark that gets everybody right back into three-point shooting. It's still going to be the most important piece in basketball in the next couple of years, or what people think is. Really, the biggest piece of basketball has been and always will be rebounding. Rebounding. It's what wins championships. Much as I always say defense, in basketball, it's rebounding. If you get a team that's dominant on the boards, they can win. They can win every game. And that's the thing coming into it. Kevon Looney's been great. Al Horford's been great. Who else steps up on the boards? Who wins? And I think that's the piece. Everyone's going to be so focused on the shooting, and I'm sure it's all we're going to talk about. But at the end of the day, I want to see who rebounds, who can dominate the boards, because to me, shooting is great. But when it comes down to a game 7, if this is where it ends up going, whichever team can grab that final board, grab an offensive rebound, or grab a defensive rebound and fight it away from the other team, that's who's going to win. Cleveland almost beat Golden State because J.R. Smith pulled down a rebound. And that's the part of it. Yeah, he may have, held on to the ball past the clock. Still time. He still went to overtime. What he did was prevent Golden State from taking it down and winning it on the other end. He gave us one more shot. And, whether what happened after that is chaos and will always go down in the history books as one of the biggest, mistakes. But in that moment, when JR pulled down that rebound, he gave you one more shot. They didn't capitalize on it, and Grant Hill should have hit his shot at the free throw line. That's the bigger part of it. But that final rebound gave the opportunity to win. And sometimes all you can ask for, especially as a coach or as a great player, I just need one chance. Give me one chance to do it, and I'll go out there and perform. And for me, when you see these two teams coming in, I feel like all it's going to take is one chance. This is going to come down to one shot. And if it doesn't, that's a shame, because that's what this series needs to be. It needs to end like Cleveland's 7-game comeback, with a shot.
Yeah.
And why don't we go ahead and make predictions here? Game 1 tonight in Golden State. I'm going Golden State. They're playing with house money. They've been here. They know what it's like. Their fans know it. They're going to bring the intensity. They're going to be ready to go. And I think Boston, they're still smelling the flowers from that Eastern Conference final. So I've got Golden State taking game 1. In the full thing of things, I think Golden State takes it in 7. I really want it to be Boston. They've been who I've been riding with all season, or really this all postseason, I should say. This was the team I'd kind of pushed. I wanted Dallas versus Boston. I got one of them here. You got your Golden State team here. So as much as I want it to be Boston, I really want it to be Boston. I want to see them grab that 18th and bring it right back around to their wheelhouse. It's Golden State. The dynasty lives on. Let it rain, baby.
Yeah, and I think tonight I'm going to keep riding with Golden State. You guys aren't shocked to hear that. But I think, a big thing is that I'm going to pick Golden State in 6, and the reason why is because I think it's going to be deep. That's why I'm picking 6. 6 is a fairly deep series, but I think, Game 6 would be in Boston. I have more confidence in Boston or Golden State winning in Boston than I do than Boston winning an important game in Game 7 in Oracle, or not Oracle, but in where the Golden State Warriors plays.
Chase Arena?
Tough. Yeah, Chase Center or whatever. But yeah, it's tough because I know we've seen them lose Game 7 in the finals to Cleveland, but Here's a stat. I know you like stats. I'll throw this one at you. I heard today in game ones under Steve Kerr. I might be getting this number wrong, but I know they've only lost 2 game ones since he's been there. 21-2 in game ones. They don't lose game ones, especially at home. So I really got.
No, that's my big thing about picking Golden State. As much as I want Boston to win this series, Golden State at home is too dangerous. Golden State in game one, they have the biggest thing with Golden State, and this is what we saw in Cleveland. I hate to always keep pushing it back, but there was game one, and then there's the adjustments that you have to make afterward. Because Golden State, they're coming out, they're going to win game one. And the only way to beat Golden State, we've seen this in every series that they have lost, which hasn't been very many, you have to make the proper adjustments. That's why Toronto was able to win against, or at least 4-7 games. They did come out winning, but that was because of injuries. They were able to force this series deep because they made adjustments. They didn't keep playing one way. They made the flip-ups, and you got to give credit to the first-year head coaches that were able to do it. And here's the test now for Udoka in Boston. Can he make those adjustments? And it might be even more of a statement for Udoka if he comes out and beats Golden State in game one. The only problem with that, if Boston wins tonight, Golden State wins in 5.
Yeah.
If Golden State wins tonight, this thing goes 6 or 7. And I say that because if Boston wins game one after the Eastern Conference Finals, hangover effect, Steve Kerr is too good at making adjustments with his team. They sweep the rest of the series.
I agree.
They're just too dangerous.
Like I said,
if you piss off Golden State, it has never turned out.
You saw the Cavs did it after they won. Make all these jokes about 3-1. What do? They get Kevin Durant and they don't lose.
Right.
You tick them off. I mean, like I said, even if Boston wins tonight, I'm still picking Golden State in 6 because, yeah, like you said, I feel like Boston's kind of feeling themselves getting here, being happy to get there. They really are going to feel that way if they win tonight. But like I said, game ones, whether it's been home on the road, whatever, under Steve Kerr, 21-2, that's big. They don't lose game ones, especially at home.
Yeah, so, I mean, I guess we're going to see tonight how that cookie crumbles. I can't wait, man. I hope I'm back for my games in time to see part of it. It'll be on ESPN tonight. But, of course, I'm sure everybody here will be watching Mahoning Valley Scrappers opening day on your sports network tonight at 7 p.m. Don't forget to tune in. I believe Richie Giuliano, one of the guys on the call. I'm not sure who else is with them for this season, but it should be exciting.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's still kind of looking ugly out, so I hope it holds up.
Yeah, hey, we don't have any rain on the forecast, so hopefully there's no rain tonight.
I love that button.
Me too. I had it used today. I have it set up right here on my laptop. I'm just I'm ready to hit it, and I haven't gotten any chance to today. We've been too agreeing on everything, Mike.
Well, we'll see as the week goes on, or as maybe these series go on in both sports.
Yeah, hey, we've got some nice arguments about these two teams.
But the button wasn't here
about Golden State, and I had the button. I just forgot about it. It was in my drawer I have next to my desk here. So into baseball, final few minutes of the show. Pretty much only have time to talk about one thing. Mike, I'll hand this over to you. What do you got for baseball right now?
You know I'm going to go there.
Pirates again?
My Pirates swept the Dodgers. Like how? I still can't believe this.
I said it the other day. Dodgers are overrated.
Yeah, but it's still. I mean.
Yeah, I still can't believe it.
it's still. I was. Now they won 5 out of 6 games against the Dodgers here. They're not going to play again, but 5 out of 6. That like I said, if they take those 6 games away from the Brewers that they played this year, they're 22-21. I still. They did everything right in that series. I really have not been able to say that the last 2 years with this team. They did everything right.
Also, can I just say, I love the Pirates Twitter after that win.
I just want to say this. Pirates
Twitter. They posted at 12:08 the final score, and then the post on Twitter was just like everyone predicted.
Yeah.
And it's just okay. I love the cockiness afterwards from the Pirates Twitter page.
Not only just the Pirates Twitter, but Pirates people on Twitter in general. I normally I don't like people making a whole lot of jokes. I think it's sometimes can be cocky if they get carried away. Pirates Twitter, if you ever get a chance to look at any of their feeds, it's hilarious because they know they stink. They act like these last 3 games of the World Series. It's fun. You're a rebuilding team and have fun with it. I love it.
Mike, I'll keep this here for Pittsburgh for you. as much as I criticize the bullpen, I got to give credit to David Bednar. Early in the season, he already has 9 saves. I mean, he has a save in almost a fifth of your game so far. Got to give credit there. I want to see the rest of your bullpen do a little bit better. I mean, Jose Quintana has been your best pitcher. His ERA is still 2.32. That needs to come down. If this team is going to carry that momentum off of that Dodgers win and take it 5 of 6, it's up to the bullpen. We finally saw the bats break loose, and a big part of that's been Brian Hayes this season, nearly batting just under 300, leads the team in stolen bases and runs this season. The Pirates, they have momentum, and that's the most dangerous thing in baseball to ever have, right? Momentum. If you can take momentum into the rest of your series, you got a dangerous team, and that's what I think right now the Pirates have, and I'm excited to see it. Other thing I'm excited to see, same division here, Cincinnati. They continue to roll. I don't know why. They lost last night, but they keep getting more good wins underneath them, and I can't understand why it's happening. But since they started with the 2 wins, they have a winning record, and they're hardly losing at this point. And it's really become kind of exciting to watch every single time. You're like, what's going to happen? How's this one going to come out? I mean, it's a different story every night. They beat Boston 2-1. They took the series against the Giants. They split it against the Cubs. They lost it somehow to the Blue Jays, but they beat the Guardians, and they split it against your Pirates. This Cincinnati team, they're turning things around, and I got to give some props to it because they're not that far out of third now in the NL Central.
Well, yeah, because we talked about it's top-heavy division, but like I was just going to go there too with the teams they played. It's not like they're playing bad teams.
Yeah.
Boston started out sluggish, but we know what they have. We know the Giants what they were last year, and they took 2 out of 3. And the Cubs are bad, but there really hasn't been a bad team they played in the stretch too. It's not like they're beating up bad teams. They're trying to get back into it. And I was surprised the way they started out because I was thinking about this team. They traded away a lot of guys, but they still had a recognizable lineup. It's not like they had a bunch of scrubs that we never heard of. They still have guys that can get it done, and that's why I was surprised they started out so bad. But they're finding a way to get back. I think they're doing it with both too. I mean, they're not killing it. They're still a bad team. They're still 17-30 something, but they're trying to get back into with doing everything. They're trying to get back. They're trying to improve their pitching. It was so bad to start. They're trying to improve their lineup. Joey Votto got off the worst stretch of his career that we've seen. So you can't get any worse than what they have, but they're starting to build something back up.
Yep. All right, well, that's going to do it here for the Casual Sports Podcast for May 2nd. You can tune into games tonight. We have 7 Class B games going on. 4 high school games, South Range versus Hawken, already in progress. Those are pay-per-view ones tonight. And, of course, West Virginia at Mahoning Valley Scrappers opening day right here on your sports network. Power Hour coming up next on YSNLive.com. I've been Alec Caberna. That's Mike Wolfgang. We'll see you all tomorrow with more NBA talk especially.